of the Daily Devo Live, coming to you from Central Florida. And I am working on making sure that I'm actually broadcasting today. There we go. Looks like it's actually happening. I was having a little bit of an issue, but here we go. So hopefully, hopefully it is happening. I'm not sure how far behind you are from me, but here I am in Central Florida. So this is where I'm going to be this week. So many of you were aware of that. Because I told you. I'm a little distracted. I'm trying to figure out what's going on to see if I can see there we go. We're starting to see the chat, starting to see all that happening. Okay, so I took y'all's advice because everybody yesterday was telling me, like, your background is terrible, man. You've just got like a white background. So I decorated it. I told you that I was going to take the moment yesterday. That was the first order of business, that I was going to decorate my space here, my broadcasting space. So this is a painting that a friend of ours did of Elway that Meredith had in the office, and I took it and I hung it up, and then I found this plant, and then I found this eagle head and like some abstract art. So like, this looks a lot better now. So great. Anyway, we are broadcasting live today from Central Florida. I'm actually in a little town called Claremont, Florida. And I say little town, I mean, it's a pretty good sized town, but it's not, I mean, by Austin standards, it's not big at all. But at any rate, it's a small town that's about 40 minutes outside of Orlando. Much more rural, kind of in when you get outside of the sort of town proper. I mean, it's a lot of wide open spaces and stuff like that. So the virus hasn't really happened here in the way that it's happened in like maybe downtown Orlando, and then also in South Florida. So really high. And when I say South Florida, I basically mean anything from like Fort Lauderdale down, is that's like a crisis area right now. Sort of like Houston, how Houston and San Antonio and Dallas are really driving the numbers in Texas, and Austin also, but not quite as bad because Austin took a much more strict approach to things, I think. So anyway, but yeah, things are not real bad here. I do wear I have my mask that I wear pretty religiously. So here's my mask. I've been representing, y'all. So there we go. There's my Don't Mess with Texas mask. So I've been representing here in Florida. So yeah, we've only got, there's not quite as many folks time on today. So yeah, it must be a busy day. Tuesdays are always a little busy. So we're, there's the proud, those who have decided to come on, and do this today. So welcome. All right. So let me see. I'm going to go ahead and share this over to our church page, just to make sure, that we got that going on. And I'm going to try very hard. I noticed on my, that's why I changed the camera angle, because I don't want to use my computer, the computer camera, because it's just not as good. Although it would be better because then you guys would actually see me looking straight sort of at the camera. I'm going to try to make sure that I'm looking at it more often, because it's on a tripod and it's kind of set up over here. So anyway, so many bunnies on the hike today. Well, that's good. I love bunnies. I saw some bunnies when I was playing golf the other day. We scared some that were running away and stuff. They're really cute. So yeah, lots of lots of bunnies. I haven't seen a lot of bunnies here. I've just seen a lot of I've seen a lot of people driving with their blinker on for I don't know, 5 miles. It is dramatic when I come back here and then I'm trying to drive somewhere and I'm like, oh my goodness. Do you not have any place to go? You know, it's like these little old people that can barely see over the steering wheel. It feels like this dude, man, he was like blinkering it like for blocks and blocks and blocks. And I kept thinking, well, maybe this is when he's going to turn, and he would slow down and then he would just keep going. I'm like, oh my gosh. So there you go. Yeah. So at any rate, things are interesting here. They're a little bit more. It's a lot different. You can definitely tell you're in a different place. You know, so I think the assumption that a lot of us have is that where we live is how it is everywhere. You know, and so Austin is not fully representative of most of Texas. As we can all agree, right? And so this community isn't like fully representative of all of Florida either. I mean, so there's lots of different places in Florida that have stricter guidelines, like Key West, for example, and so now South Florida as well. They're doing a lot of that. So a lot of it's kind of interesting. To be in a different setting, to be in a different environment, to hear different people talk about, you know, what their experiences have been, you know, through all this, and to be here in the area where Meredith is working and where we lived for so long. You know, it's always good. You know, it's always nice to be able to be here and to be here with her. And the interesting thing is that the way all this works now is that, you know, a lot of what I do and a lot of most of what I do actually is online now, you know, so, you can kind of do it from anywhere. And so that's been kind of nice. So I'd be able to come here and to be with her and to sort of, you know, see her, you know, what she does, you know, on the weeks that she's here. And so she's going to be here for a long stretch this time because the kids are coming next week. So next week I'm gonna have my kids gone, and then I think my dad actually is going to go on a trip too. So there's a possibility that I might actually be home alone. Trivia, you know, I might have to figure out how to weave that into our movie trivia today. Well, so today we're going to continue doing movies that are set in Florida, and so we're going to be working on that. And there's lots of movies that are set in Florida, as it turns out. So we're gonna take a look at that. So. All right. So stuff that's going on tomorrow. We've got our conversations on racial injustice. But yeah, Q-tip drivers, great man. They'll make a left at Ocoee. Yeah. So I used to live in Ocoee, Warren. That's where I lived. I lived in Ocoee. So if they're traveling towards Orlando, there was a time a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, before all of the traffic and all of the stuff that built up in Central Florida, that I could drive from where I lived in Ocoee, or even from Claremont, where I'm living right now, or where I'm at right now. I could drive down what is known as Highway 50, right, which is Highway 50, Colonial Drive. I could drive all the way down Highway 50 and get to the movie theater, the Fashion Square movie theater that was all the way down in Orlando. And I could get there in probably 30 minutes. And I would save all the tolls that I would have to pay if I'd gone on the toll road, which was the fastest way to get downtown. And so anyway, yeah, so that was back in the day. There is no way that you could get downtown get down to the Fashion Square movie theater from where I am right now in 30 minutes. It would take you an hour and change at least. So yeah. So it's changed a lot. It's changed a lot since I was here. But I lived in Ocoee. Ocoee is an interesting place. It was the site of a near Ocoee was a freedman town. So a freedman town, which was a black town that was full of freed blacks, and it was thriving and it was doing well. It was a lot like Rosewood, the movie Rosewood. Took place in Florida, and so Ocoee was also one of those places. And so I didn't even know this growing up. I had no idea, but that Ocoee was the place of one of those kinds of massacres where they burned the entire thing down overnight just because of some that was an accusation, a false accusation by a white girl that she was accosted by a black guy. And so they burned an entire town down, which is what they wanted to do anyway, right? But anyway, all of that is kind of like where I grew up in Ocoee. Ocoee is a lot different now. It's a lot more diverse. But yeah, drive that way and then make a left in Ocoee. There you go. Doc Hollywood was shot in Micanopy, which is right near a town that shall remain nameless. The town where Warren and Amanda spent their college days. That those of us who do not appreciate the school that is located in that town, we call it Hogtown. So I'm talking about Gainesville, right? So the interesting thing is that Micanopy almost got the University of Florida way back when. So in the 1800s, so it's the 19th century. The University of Florida was about to be, I don't know what is going on here. How do I turn the volume down on this? The phone keeps ringing. So the University of Florida was supposed to be, was trying to be set up in Micanopy. And the town fathers at Micanopy rejected it. And so it went to Gainesville instead. And so now Micanopy is like a little town. Actually, it's grown, because the university has sort of moved. A lot of people have moved to that area, that part of Florida, and so it's kind of moved up a little bit. So there you go. You got a little bit of Florida history, a little bit of Florida geography. So yeah, I will say this, man. When I moved to Austin, I was so excited. I told my kid one of the things that is so great about moving to Austin is that I will never have to look at that ugly lizard head ever again. And what I'm talking about is the Florida Gators, the Florida Gators emblem, which in this part of Florida is everywhere, right? Because it's near Gainesville, and there's all the people that can't even spell college have Florida Gator stuff. And so anyway, when I lived up in North Florida, it was in God's country of Florida, right? Up in North Florida, which is really South Georgia, to be honest. Everybody was a Seminole up there. And so, that was much nicer for me. But at any rate, I was so excited. I said, I'm never going to have to look at that ugly lizard head again. So I hadn't been in Texas. I had been in Austin maybe a week, and I went to the mall for something. As I'm sitting in the traffic, getting ready to turn to go to the mall, right off of Mopac onto 360. Right in front of me is this person that has their license plate, and they've got the University of Florida Gators. They got the gator on the back of their thing, and then I go over to Warren and Amanda's house for the very first time. And they thoughtfully put all of their Christmas lights at the entranceway were all blue and orange. And then they have a bathroom that is just completely University of Florida. So God's a comedy writer when it comes to me. So yeah, there you go. Okay. Stuff that's coming up. We've got our conversations about racial injustice tomorrow. That's going to be happening. And I'm excited about that. If you have not been part of one of those, this would be a great time to join in. There's several left. I think we have 3 more. We've done 1, 2. I think we may have done 3, and now we'll be heading into the 4th, and there's only 6, right? So now would be the time to jump in and be a part of that conversation. So we're going to be having those, that happening tomorrow night. I'm not going to be there for that because I do have something that I have to do here. But so that's the only thing that the only one I'm going to miss. But Pastor Britta will be there. I know a couple other staff members will be there. Carlin will be doing the facilitation. So we'll have it all taken care of. And you guys will be able to have a great time of being able to have that conversation. So be a part of that tomorrow. Also, I think there's probably some fellowship opportunities this week. And make sure that you are going to our Facebook page. If you have not liked our Facebook page or followed us on Facebook, please do that, because what that does is it gives you notifications. So every time that we get ready to do something, anytime that we're posting some new things, you'll get a notification that'll show you, or it'll show up in your Facebook feed a lot easier. And so you'll be able to stay up to speed. The very best way to do it, honestly, though, is to be signed up for our emails because we send those out every week. In fact, it'll go out tomorrow and it'll have all kinds of reminders and all kinds of things on there, about what's happening. So if you haven't signed up for the emails and you would like to, because you want to be a part of what's going on, even though you don't live here in Austin, even if you don't live in Austin, I'm here in Florida, but even though you don't live in Austin, you can be a part of our congregation. You don't have to live in Austin to be an active participant in all the things that we're doing. Because, you can worship with us online. You can do mission. You can participate in mission. You can do classes. All of those things are all part of it. All the fellowship opportunities, are all part of that as well. And so you are welcome to come and be a part of that. But it is great to be able to know what's happening. So if you have not signed up for our email list, just let me know. You can message me. I'll make sure that you get signed up. It's that easy. Also, I do a lot of other things too. So I do the daily Devo that you hear read each time that we read them here is something that I've written, and it also goes out via email. So if you're not receiving those, if you'd like to receive the daily Devos in written form, they usually happen. They usually come across at 8 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Central Time, and then you have them in your inbox every week. And every day of the week. And so if you're interested in that, that's cool. Some of y'all have opted not to read those anymore. You want to hear it live, which is great too. So, you can always do that. So the other thing that I'm working on is podcasts. And so I've got, I just finished the podcast for the interview with Daryl Horton. Hopefully you guys had a chance to listen to that. If you have not, all you need to go in the podcast section of iTunes, or there's a podcast app for Apple, and then you just search for PastorCast. Okay, the PastorCast podcast. Now, what I can do is I will make sure that I put a link here in the Facebook section, so you guys will be able to access the PastorCast podcast. Which hopefully as we start, here we go. All right. So the PastorCast, man, this has been a long time since it's been updated here in my computer. So I'll do the best that I can to get that to you. All right. So here is the link. Here is the link to the actual podcast itself. I'm going to put it in the Facebook feed. Okay. Boom. All right. So this is the PastorCast feed. So you can access this by going to that link, and then once you're there, you can actually just subscribe to the PastorCast, and then you'll get all of the ones. You can go back and listen to old ones if you're curious about what we used to do and some of the things I've done with Meredith. It's been a little bit more challenging, obviously, to do the PastorCast with Meredith, and I kind of shifted everything away for a bit because we were doing COVID stuff and leadership in the church and COVID, church after COVID. And then now we're doing racial injustice conversations, and I'm gonna work on those. I've got at least 2 more interviews that are scheduled or that will be scheduled for those conversations, and I'll probably give those a rest, and then we'll start other things. But I'm pretty excited about that. So if you'd like to subscribe to it, then you get that in your inbox as well. And there's of course the weekend events that we have Sunday mornings at 9:30 a.m. Central Time. We're going to be starting a brand new sermon series this week. It's called Indescribable, and we're talking about the sort of limitless creativity of God and how we can see that creativity at work, and then also realize that we are called to join God as co-creators. And to be a part of that. And it's going to be kind of great, I think, to shift just a little bit because, here's the thing. We're going to have to start being a lot more imaginative in the way that we approach life, the universe, and everything, because right now things have been turned upside down. And so for us to be able to think imaginatively and creatively about how to solve our problems, how to move forward, how to approach different things that maybe we aren't able to do in the same old ways that we used to do them, which might not be a bad idea, right? And so what I'm hoping is that this sermon series is going to spark some creativity within our congregation. And then we're going to be going into some really cool stuff in the fall. And I'm real excited about that. And so make sure that you're staying tuned for all of those announcements, including some announcements that we'll have about what we're going to be doing going forward for the rest of this year and what that might look like for us, and some things that we're dreaming about and hoping for, even though we may not be able to meet for some time, because we're going to make sure that we are doing everything safely, responsibly, and prudently, right? That we're not going to gather together as a congregation until we can do so responsibly and prudently. And we're going to be guided by the guidelines that the city is setting for us and that our presbytery, Mission Presbytery, is offering in terms of their guidance. And then also we're going to be led by the advice and recommendations of the healthcare workers and physicians and so forth that are on the front lines of all this, that are part of our congregation and part of our leadership. So all of those things are going to be factored into it, but that doesn't mean that we can't do creative and innovative things where we are able to do some in-person stuff at some point when it's responsible to do so. So those are all things that we're going to be working on, including distributing more swag. We're going to have more swag coming, right? There's new masks that are that are going to be shipped to us here pretty soon. So we've got black ones that we're going to have, and we're going to make sure that we can get those into the hands of folks far and wide. And we're going to be working on a shirt. There's a new T-shirt that we're going to have that is going to sort of commemorate, the COVID moment, and we're gonna get that out into people's hands as well. And so, we're working on all those kinds of things. So those will be in person for the most part. We'll have people drive up and we'll distribute to folks to give away some of those things. And so we'll be doing all those kind of things. So anyway, yep. All right. So this is what we've got. There are no COVID restrictions for joining online from faraway places. That's right. So Ann is joining us from Chicago. And we've got another Ann joining us from Wales, where it is. That's why she's saying good afternoon, because it's afternoon there. Yep. And just so for those of you who weren't here at the very beginning, there was commentary on the fact that my surroundings were pretty bare and Spartan. And there was just bare walls because the person who was using this office, quit. She went. She got another job, and which is fine. It was a good thing, I guess, considering the timing of everything. And so her office is empty, and so thankfully I was able to find an office. But I went and did some decor, so I've got like this painting of Elway. Meredith thought it was pretty funny. So anyway, okay, let's do a little bit of Florida movie stuff. Okay. Oh, I've got so much to choose from. Let's see here. Okay. This movie, which is set in Florida, starred Channing Tatum as a kid who is a guy who's doing handyman jobs and doing all kinds of stuff. But it is in the nighttime when he exhibits his special talents. This movie also starred Matthew McConaughey as well. And so this movie was set in Florida. So let's see if any of you can get that movie. Starring Channing Tatum, where he gets to show off his special talents in the evening, and much to the delight of certain groups of people. There you go. Magic Mike. I can proudly say that I have never watched that movie, nor the subsequent movies that were made from that movie. But, you know, it's like Meredith said, after all of the movies that have been made that objectified women, it was about time. So anyway, it was Magic Mike, where Channing Tatum plays a male stripper. And so it also had Matthew McConaughey and Joe Manganieri is his. I can't really pronounce his last name, but Joe Manganiello, who's kind of an odd duck. Like I actually like that guy is super into Dungeons and Dragons. He's like a legend in Dungeons and Dragons world. Joe Manganiello, So, all right. So Brian, my man Brian, is up in Galesburg, Illinois, right? So you've got some folks. So Brian, who is a member of our church and lives in Austin, is up in Galesburg, Illinois. And there you go. So, and Brian, there you are. Now you have something in common. See, this is what happens. This is the magic that happens on the Daily Devo Live. That and Magic Mike trivia. Where else can you get inspiration, connection, fellowship, and you can have a trivia question about a male stripper movie? Oh, that's right. Visiting your mom. Well, Brian, prayers and blessings to your mom and to you, my friend. Safe journeys. Oh, good. Yeah, I'm so glad. Yeah, bring her back to Texas, and that'll be great. You guys will be there next to her, so that's awesome. So good to hear from you on here. Let's dive into today, and it is called Imago Dei, which is a Latin phrase for the image of God. I was driving home the other day when I saw something that struck me, and I've been thinking about it ever since. I was sitting at an intersection waiting for the light to turn green when I noticed a car opposite me making a turn. And there was a huge flock of birds. They were grackles. So if you don't know what grackles are, if you're not from Texas and you have no idea what grackles are, just rest assured that grackles are everywhere in Texas. I think they have them in other places too. I mean, it's not just Texas, but that just seems to be, I didn't encounter them in Florida. They had different kinds of blackbirds like that, but there was a huge flock of them. They were all on the road and they were eating I think somebody had dumped like a whole thing of bread. It was like a big bag of like buns or something, and they were just going to town. They were all on the road. And so the guy was getting ready to turn that direction. And so he slowed his car down to a crawl and moved forward at a snail's pace to try to give the birds time to move. And once they scattered, he proceeded to make his turn, and then he drove off. And I remember as I was sitting there, I was thinking about, I became curious about the impulse that you have, to do that, right? The guy could have just driven right through it, right? He could have just been like, bonsai, and like, who cares? They're just freaking grackles, right? They've probably dumped on my car more than, once when I've parked in the HEB or, whatever stores I've gone to, so you kind of get that, right? He could have easily just driven at a normal rate of speed, but it was apparent that he didn't want to harm any of them, these little creatures in the road just trying to eat. So instead of just driving through them, he slowed down to ensure their survival. As I thought about this, I remembered a line from a poem I'd read a couple of weeks ago by Adam Zagajewski with a stanza that goes like this. And let me put this into your comments so that you can see it a little more clearly. All right. Boom. In the rearview mirror, suddenly I saw the bulk of the Beauvais Cathedral. Great things dwell in small ones for a moment. That's so beautiful, man. It was a small thing, this gesture of mercy. But it said something to me about the inherent goodness of most people, which is always there below the surface. You see, God imprinted us with God's DNA, what Scripture calls the imago Dei, or the image of God. We were not created flawed. I know that that's something that a lot of people struggle with, the idea of original sin, of original cursing, right? That stuff didn't happen until later, right? When you talk about original sin, original cursing, it was a natural sort of progression for human beings to struggle, with their freedom. We struggle with our freedom. I know that that's a difficult thing to digest, considering the context within which we live, where there's a whole bunch of people who seem to be struggling with their freedom, and the difference between freedom and responsibility, right? And so we struggle with this, right? And so a lot of times, because of the freedom that we have, that we've been given by God to choose, the freedom to do things, and the freedom for creation to choose as well, creation to be creation and to continue to be dynamic, that, there's things that happen as a result of that, but we were not created flawed. In fact, humans were the only part of creation that God refers to as very good in the Genesis account that we find in Genesis 1, that I'm going to be preaching about here in a few days. But we deny the image of God within us in 100 different ways, blurring that image from view, even though it lives just below the surface of our fears and our angers and selfishness and pride. And some people deny it to the point that it becomes almost impossible for anyone to catch a glimpse of it at all. The saddest bit is that far too many of those people would self-identify as Christian. It takes no small amount of vulnerability to admit that we are not as we should be when it comes to God. We're sacrificing our comfort, our position, our power. It also requires us to be present in the moment enough to realize what the Spirit might be teaching us about ourselves and about what God desires for us. Father Richard Rohr, like you can't make it through a week without hearing a little bit of Father Richard Rohr from me, right? So yeah, sorry about that, but sorry, not sorry. To be present to something is to allow the moment, the person, the idea, or the situation to influence us and even change us. Our word for that is vulnerability. Could that be why we are afraid of such a stance? We give the event control over us, and none of us like that. The driver did something that made me realize this anew. It was a small thing for him to surrender his power and be slightly inconvenienced in order to ensure the well-being of the tiny creatures in the road. I can't help but recall the following two verses from Matthew chapter 10, where Jesus tells his followers this. Hold on 1 second. And this is Matthew 10, verses 29 and 30. I want you guys to see these, so that's why I put them up. Are not two sparrows sold for a penny, yet not one of them will fall to the ground outside God's care, and even the very heads of your head are all numbered. Jesus wanted his listeners to know how very precious each of them was in the eyes of God. It's like he's saying to them, and I'll put this in the comments as well, so you can see it. This is my paraphrase, okay? So this is me paraphrasing for Jesus. God's love and kindness cover even the tiniest parts of creation. I mean, even the death of a little bird that no one really cares about grieves the heart of God. And this same God loves you so intimately that it's like God knows just how many hairs are on your head. That's how precious you are. You and I are imbued with goodness. We might struggle at times to show it, to be sure. And there are some among us who have denied the imago Dei so long that it seems they might never be able to let it be seen. But we are called to live better and truer lives, to finally become the people God dreams for us to be. Every single day, we are given countless opportunities to put away our selfish desires when it comes to the people we encounter who are less fortunate, those who are oppressed, those who are vulnerable, those without power. But when we do, these small moments can become great things when we let down our guard and allow the imago Dei within us to shine through. It can change the world. So may you let the image of God within you shine like the sun today and every day, and may you discover your truest and best self as you do. And may the grace and peace of our Lord Jesus Christ be with you now and always. Amen. So I do hope that spoke to you today. It definitely always speaks to me before it speaks to anyone out in the public sphere. So I do also hope that y'all have a fantastic day, that you find some joy, find some things to do that will make you feel complete, no matter what it is. Well, as long as it's safe, be safe, be healthy, wear your masks. Don't listen to the people who say that you don't need to wear your mask, and that masks don't. I mean, wear your dang mask. Just wear the mask. If we all did that and we all took care of one another, we slow this thing down. We were able to buy us time in order to get to a vaccine, to get to resolution, to reopen the economy, to do all the things that we all want to do. That's something that's kind of important for us all to realize, right? Is that not all of us want the economy. I mean, like, the thing is that people who are saying that we need to be safe don't want to destroy the economy. They live in the economy. They live in this world. They want to make it right? And not all people that are worried about the economy want a whole bunch of people to die, right? So we just need to be able to come together and to figure out the things that we have in common and to work towards the common good. That's the most important thing. And I'm actually writing about that today. I started working on the Daily Devo for Friday. So I'll be Saturday morning, bright and early. I'll be back home in Texas by like 9 o'clock, 9 a.m. And so, but until then, we'll be back here every day at 9 a.m. And me and Elway and my eagle head and all of you, right? Phyllis, going to make some cranberry bread, man. Good stuff. What a great ministry Phyllis has had, distributing all kinds of baked goods, and including cinnamon rolls, which I did have one that cost me dearly on my Weight Watchers points, but it was worth it. All right, y'all, have a great day. I will see you here tomorrow, and be blessed.